Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International.
Authorities in the Republic of Ireland say that they were forced to intervene and keep order at dozens of ATMs across the country this week after a strange glitch affecting one of the nation's largest banks essentially allowed customers to take out free cash. According to reports, the incident began sometime on the afternoon of August 15th when an unspecified technical glitch started to affect customers of the Bank of Ireland. The issue apparently made many of the bank's online services inaccessible, though contactless purchases, card, and cash machine services appeared to still be working. However, as some soon realized, that wasn't 100% true. While cash machines were still spitting out money, the glitch had apparently affected their communications with customers' accounts. The result was that people were able to withdraw or transfer more money than they actually had in these accounts. As word began to spread about the glitch, people across the country reportedly began to flock to Bank of Ireland ATMs, lured by the potential of getting free money. Lines got so long in some places and people were in such a hurry to take advantage of the glitch that police had to be sent to cash machines in a number of highly populated areas to maintain order. According to local media, in at least one instance, they were allegedly forced to break up an assault related to the ATMs. Though the Bank of Ireland says that the glitch has since been fixed, no information appears to be available about what actually caused the hours-long situation. Bank officials also warned that the celebration will likely be short-lived for those who took part in the money madness, as they claim debits for the amounts they took out will soon be applied to their accounts. Still, it seems that many are holding out hope that the money they got will remain free. As one man interviewed by the Irish Times said while waiting in line at his local ATM, quote, "I don't know if I'll get away with it, but it's worth a shot."
Authorities in South Australia say that a 33-year-old man is facing charges this week following a bizarre and destructive rampage that they allege was completely unprovoked. According to local media, police were called just before 7 p.m. on August 16th with reports that a man was damaging vehicles and other property in the Adelaide suburb of Salisbury. Officers arrived to find the suspect walking around on the street near Park Terrace, dragging what later turned out to be a cash register by its power cord. The man was flinging the device around, smashing it into several vehicles nearby, some of which were occupied and moving. He was eventually taken into custody, though apparently not before spitting on officers. Witnesses now say that the strange incident began a short time earlier when the unidentified suspect was kicked out of a local KFC. He had apparently gotten frustrated after trying to pay with cash at one of the business's automated ordering machines and began pushing other customers. After being kicked out, the suspect reportedly walked across the street, pulling garbage bins into the middle of the road as he did so. He then headed into another restaurant called Fat Jesse's Pizza, where things escalated even further. According to staff, the man flew into a rage after simply being asked what he wanted on his pizza. After screaming, "Not ham," he apparently threw change and a call bell at employees before ripping the restaurant's entire cash register and computer system off of the front counter. It was these items, which he dragged behind him while leaving the business, that he allegedly used to smash vehicles while continuing his rampage out on the street. At least 4 vehicles were apparently damaged during the incident, including a police cruiser. The 33-year-old has now been charged with 5 counts of property damage, as well as theft and assault for spitting at police. At the time of this recording, neither the suspect's name nor his alleged motive have been released.
Representatives from England's Surrey Police say that they're searching for 3 people connected to the tragic death of a 10-year-old girl this week, a case which is being investigated as a murder. According to reports, the situation began in the early morning hours of August 10th when police arrived at a semi-detached residence on Hammond Road in the village of Horsell. It was here, during a search of the property, that officers made a chilling discovery: the lifeless body of a young girl. She has since been identified as 10-year-old Sarah Sharif. While no one else was home at the time of the search, police say they now want to speak to the former tenants of the property. Currently, they have not been identified by name, though are said to be a family of Pakistani nationality consisting of 3 adults and 5 children. Alarmingly, investigators say that they have reason to believe that they have since fled the country, as they have uncovered evidence that the family purchased one-way tickets to Pakistan the day before Sarah's body was found. If true, this could significantly complicate the case, as Pakistan has no formal extradition agreement with the UK. The girl's mother, Olga Sharif, says that she was not living with her daughter at the time of her alleged murder and was informed of the devastating situation by phone. She said that she had lost custody of Sarah and Sarah's 13-year-old brother back in 2019 and had only been allowed to see them 2 times in the 4 years since. Sarah's living situation at the time of her death remains unclear. At the time of this recording, few additional details are available about the tragic situation. Authorities say they are still investigating the cause of the 10-year-old's death and that further tests need to be carried out. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in Finland's Ostrobotnia region say that a local man is facing prison time this week following a strange incident in which he allegedly put a large quantity of explosives in 2 vehicles belonging to his friend. According to local media, the incident began sometime on August 3rd when police were called to a residence in the village of Kållby with reports of a possible explosive device. The caller said that he had been told by one of his friends that he had placed nearly 26.5 pounds of dynamite in 2 cars on his property. When the bomb squad was called in, they confirmed the alarming find, forcing the evacuation of several nearby buildings. The dynamite was then safely recovered from the vehicles, along with detonators. Later that same day, police tracked down and arrested the friend who had supposedly left the explosives in the victims' cars. The man apparently admitted to what he had done, though bizarrely claimed that he had done it as a joke. It remains unclear exactly what the joke was supposed to be. While authorities say that they are satisfied that the suspect did not place the dynamite with terror-related intent, they are still considering charging the man allegedly responsible with explosives-related offenses. If convicted, he could be looking at up to 2 years in prison. At the time of this recording, neither man involved in the situation has been identified by name.
Authorities in Thailand's Chonburi province say that a 33-year-old man has been arrested and is facing charges this week after he allegedly murdered his wife in a jealous rage and tried to conceal the crime, only to get caught while returning to the scene. According to local media, the incident began at around 6 p.m. on August 14th when police were called to a forested area in the Kochan district with reports of a possible homicide. When officers arrived, they were led to the body of a 36-year-old woman named Usamani. She was lying face down, was semi-clothed, and had a piece of cloth covering her face. When investigators moved the cloth, they realized that she had sustained brutal injuries to the head. Following the disturbing discovery, officers headed to the single-story house where Usamani had lived with her 33-year-old husband, Tirafan. As soon as they stepped inside, it was clear this was the place she had been murdered. The place was in total disarray, and there were clothes and bloodstains in multiple places. Most chilling of all was a long streak mark of blood on the floor where Usamani's body had clearly been dragged before being taken to the woods. As authorities were in the middle of searching the house, they got another surprise when Tirafan returned to the scene. He was arrested immediately and allegedly later admitted to carrying out the murder. The 33-year-old confessed that he had killed Usamani after hearing her talking to another man on the phone while she was cooking. He struck her in the head multiple times with a pestle before finishing her off by stabbing her with a sharp tool. After dragging her body to the woods where it was found, he fled, though ended up coming back to grab some of his belongings. At the time of this recording, Tirafan remains in custody and has been charged with murder.
Authorities in the Peruvian department of Loreto say that they are investigating and trying to calm fears amongst indigenous groups in parts of its remote Amazon jungle this week, following a spate of recent crimes and attacks that locals initially attributed to extraterrestrials. According to officials, for the last several weeks, they have been receiving numerous reports from the Iquitu people, an indigenous group that lives in the country's dense northern jungles, who say that they have been the victims of a sustained campaign of otherworldly attacks. In particular, the group says that they have been terrorized by 7-foot-tall floating menaces, who they say have been flying around their villages and wreaking havoc. These attackers have been described by many names: Los Pelacares, or the face peelers of traditional Peruvian legends, as green goblins akin to something from the Spider-Man films, or perhaps most commonly, simply as aliens. Locals claim that they have tried to fight the aliens themselves, but they appear to be impervious to bullets. Officials, however, say that there is a far more terrestrial explanation for what has been going on. After some investigation, they believe the so-called aliens are actually members of organized crime groups that are involved in illegal gold mining operations. While authorities say that these criminals are definitely human, they are of no less cause for concern. Many of them are said to be part of well-funded and powerful organizations, mostly from Brazil and Colombia, who have been illegally mining in the area around the Nanay River Basin for years. The practice has been especially attractive for groups who see it as a legally safer alternative to drug trafficking, while still being equally as lucrative. The money made on these operations has apparently afforded criminals the ability to use the latest available technology in their never-ending search for gold. One of these technologies is apparently jetpacks, which officials believe are what is being mistaken by groups like the Iquitu for alien hardware. The situation gets even stranger though. While it's thought that the jetpacks were originally used by illegal miners to scout for new gold deposits in the dense jungle, authorities now believe they're being put to a secondary use. They allege that the criminals are deliberately trying to use their technology to scare indigenous groups into staying near their villages so as not to interfere with their illegal mining. While the plot sounds like something cooked up for an ill-considered crossover episode between Black Mirror and Scooby-Doo, the situation on the ground for groups like the Iquitu has understandably been quite terrifying. Over the past few weeks, they've apparently been subjected to numerous attacks on their villages. During one such incident at the end of July, one jetpack-wearing criminal allegedly tried to kidnap a 15-year-old girl. Thankfully, she managed to get away, though she reportedly sustained cuts to her neck and other injuries which required medical treatment. At the time of this recording, officials say that they are trying to help, but that it's difficult to send in large numbers of law enforcement due to how remote and inaccessible some of these areas of jungle are. At least for now, it remains to be seen where the situation will go from here.
Authorities in New Zealand say that a 61-year-old woman has pleaded guilty to murder charges this week, nearly 3 months after she killed her live-in partner during a horrifying stabbing attack. The whole thing began roughly 6 years ago when the victim, 58-year-old Mark Henry Willis, met the 61-year-old perpetrator through an online dating site. Initially, she moved to the nation's capital of Wellington to be with him. However, in early 2022, they relocated to the city of Dunedin in New Zealand's South Island. They bought a 3-bedroom home together, settling in the suburb of Tainui. While the couple was happy for a while, according to reports, in the months after their move, the 61-year-old woman's mental health began to deteriorate. So much so that she ended up going on sick leave at work. Things reportedly came to a tragic end on the afternoon of May 18th of this year. That day, Mark got home from work at around 4:30 p.m., deciding he would take a bath roughly half an hour later. It was here, while relaxing, that the 61-year-old came inside armed with a knife and attacked. Mark was stabbed a total of 22 times and slashed at least a half a dozen more, ultimately dying from blood loss. At 5:15 p.m., the 61-year-old messaged her children on Facebook, writing, quote, "I love you guys. I'm sorry for what I've done." 3 minutes later, she transferred the equivalent of about $27,000 US into one of her children's bank accounts before calling the police and explaining what she had done. While the woman has now pleaded guilty to murder, disturbingly, it appears she offered very little additional information about why she killed Mark. At the time of this recording, her name remains legally suppressed, though that's expected to change when she is sentenced on October 4th.
Authorities in the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina say that 4 people are dead this week, including the gunman, following a terrifying shooting attack that was live-streamed to social media. According to reports, the incident began at around 10:20 a.m. on August 11th, when a 35-year-old man named Nurman Sulemanovic began streaming to his Instagram account in the city of Gradacac. After telling those watching that they were about to witness a murder live, he allegedly traveled to his 38-year-old ex-wife Nizama Hichimovic's house. Once inside, he fatally shot her in the forehead at close range, just feet away from their baby daughter. With the camera still rolling, Sulejmanovic reportedly left the home before continuing his attack at multiple other locations. He fatally shot 2 more people, identified only as a father and son, and wounded 3 other victims before finally turning his weapon on himself. News of the horrifying attack quickly spread across the country, with many mourning the senseless loss of life. However, sadness soon turned to outrage when more details were reported about the circumstances that led up to the deadly incident. According to local media, the first victim of the attack, Nizama, had reportedly sought the help of police multiple times prior to the shooting and had reported both physical abuse and harassment at the hands of her ex-husband. Her most recent report was made just days before she was killed, though it's unclear what, if any, action authorities took. Adding further fuel to the fire was the fact that Sulejmanovic was already no stranger to police. He had previously been arrested for other crimes, including drug smuggling and attacking an officer. On August 14th, thousands in the nation's capital of Sarajevo took to the streets in protest of the recent events, demanding greater protection for women and calling for authorities to take reports of domestic violence more seriously. While a national day of mourning was declared 2 days later, so far it's unclear what, if any, changes the government plans to introduce in the aftermath of the attack. Law enforcement say the situation is still under investigation, and so far no official motive behind the chilling crime has been released. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.